January 10th, 2024. Well, there's been a lot of discussion here about the situation in Washington with the missing Secretary of Defense, and I think that may have been a bit of a break in our national command authority. But fortunately, there wasn't a nuclear war during that period, so I guess not not much damage was actually done. But meanwhile, another issue that at least they found him now, so things are okay at the moment, I guess. But or at least replaced him with a deputy who was vacationing in Puerto Rico at the time. But the main issue that's been going on, or at least the one I want to speak to in this video, is the negotiation about the border, which has of course tied up the big special spending bill that Biden proposed of over $100 billion, including $61 billion, I think, for Ukraine, and then $14.5 billion for Israel for the fight the war against Hamas, some aid for Taiwan against the Chinese, and then, of course, a whole bunch of money for either border security or, should we say, illegal immigration facilitation, which seems to be what most of the Border Patrol is doing nowadays, thanks to the Biden policy there. So, at any rate, I know that Laura Ingraham kind of threw a shot across the bow to Senator Langford, who is the lead Republican negotiator, and was saying don't trust him and so forth. So, of course, isn't he the guy that got us the Juneteenth holiday? Because Trump happened to have made a campaign rally in Tulsa on Juneteenth, and that brought memories of a terrible event that occurred about over 100 years earlier, and well, whatever. But so this guy is a little flaky, I think. I understand, though, that they are moving. We'll have to see what they come up with. I mean, if you could get a good deal, I guess it would be interesting, because anything to shut off this disaster. However, I'm skeptical. Would the Democrats really want to agree to a good deal unless the Senate Democrats are running a little scared of what Biden is doing and the prospects for the election, and they've decided maybe it's time to stop this. Maybe they actually have enough illegal immigrants for now to achieve their goal. I mean, how many do they really need? That's a good question. That's the question that's almost never asked, right? How many do we need? And how much do we want the total population of the country to grow to? Do we have a plan on that? If the domestic production of new children is somewhere around replacement level or less, I mean, are we trying to grow to some level? And if so, how much and why? I mean, this should be a serious issue itself. But anyhow, by the way, if you like these videos, please give me a like, and of course, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. And for those of you that might see a link to this on some social media account and are not on YouTube, but maybe you're on Rumble, I'm on there with the same address, Corrality452, so you can follow me there. Because I post mostly the same videos there. The other things that I might even post some things that I won't post on YouTube. I did one in the last few months. So, okay. So getting back to this, so this is kind of the question. I mean, what's surprising here is that the red line apparently is what's called parole authority, which gives the president the right just to say, okay, he can stay here. And I guess right now this is one of the big holes in the wall that we have, so to speak, that's allowed Biden to do this. Because the situation is that the laws are not tight enough. There's enough squishiness in them that he's been able to do this, and apparently there's been no way to form a legal challenge against it. And so the idea is to come up with specific limits on things like parole authority. And I think, yes, there's other issues that they're looking at too. And we really won't know to what they come up with. I'm a little pessimistic, actually, because since it's being negotiated with the Senate Republicans, with the Senate Democrats, I mean, but we'll have to see what comes of it. But one of the numbers that was thrown out was that the parole authority might be limited to a quantitative number, and the number I think they were throwing out was 5,000 per week. which would turn into about a little over 260,000 per year. Um, so, which is a pretty big number, but compared to the kind of numbers we're seeing right now, um, I mean, that would cut it by about, I guess. Well, the current numbers we've been seeing have reached above 10,000 in a day, I think. So, this would slow things down a lot. And of course, if we win the election, we might not use as much parole authority. There is some reason to have a little bit of parole authority in general, but not for people that just walk across the border. What that would be if there was some kind of a reasonable humanitarian crisis where we might agree in an international to take a few refugees or something. But whether it needs to be as high as that, I don't know. But that might be as good as we could get out of the Democrats. If we really got that plus other substantive changes along the lines of the things that are in the House bill, H.R. 2, then it would be worth doing. If it isn't that good, though, at some point, I think maybe the House just won't accept it. Because the other fly in the ointment is throwing another $61 billion into Ukraine to perpetuate this war, which looks to me like it's just going to kill a bunch of people and maim a bunch of people, but isn't likely to really change the fundamental outcome. Because at the present time, it looks like Russia's incapable of actually conquering Ukraine. The early fear when it first broke out in February of 2022, that about almost 2 years ago now, there was a fear that they would actually be able to conquer Ukraine. Well, that's pretty clear cut they can't. So that's not likely to happen. And on the other hand, it's unlikely that Ukraine will really drive Russia out of all these territories. Add the fact that the people in those territories are largely ethnic Russian and really don't want to be ruled by Ukraine nationalist government in Kyiv, who will be clearly an oppressor to them. And I don't buy, one thing I don't buy in our propaganda is that the elections in Crimea and elections in Ukraine were rigged or don't represent a good approximation of what the people want. It wasn't like people were looking down the barrel of an AK-74 when they voted to stay with Russia, I don't think. At least that's my opinion. Nobody's convinced me otherwise of that. On the other hand, there's certainly many nationalistic Ukrainians that, want Russia out. But Crimea was traditionally Russian anyhow, and there's a lot of things that went on up to and during 2014 with CIA and State Department operations to try to promote a coup against the previously elected government. Again, how legitimate any election in either Ukraine or Russia is, we could debate. However, people are starting to question some of our elections. So, although we can't question them here, I know. But I mean, just saying that this is, I think the main thing I would say is that there clearly is an ethnic split. The fact that people in those areas, those breakaway areas, are actually fighting against the Ukrainian army makes them legally traitors to Ukraine. So if they fall into their occupation. At any rate, I think the best thing to do would be to negotiate an end to this thing. And right now, so little of Ukraine has been lost to the Russians that it probably poses an acceptable outcome. Although, we'll see. I understand there's a big battle going on in the Ukrainian parliament now over a mobilization law that will presumably even start conscripting women to serve in the infantry. So that'll be interesting to see. Whether they really have to go to the trenches or not, I don't know. But I mean, this thing is getting pretty nasty, and the manpower pools are being worn down here between all the people trying to flee the country. Well, the topic here is not Ukraine. I'm just saying I'm not big on that money, but if that's the price it pays to get real border security and to stop this invasion of our own country, you have to pay the price, because otherwise you don't stop it. On the other hand, if the deal is something that Biden can easily ignore and just continue doing what he's doing, then we shouldn't take the deal. And we'll have to see what they get first. And of course, the problem is, with this House leadership being so rickety, with a handful of people plus all the Democrats wanting to beat the Republicans can throw a speaker out just like that. I mean, this is not good for the Republican Party either to be in this precarious situation. But so anyhow, I don't know. I would like to see the number lower than 250,000, maybe 100,000. I mean, again, and I don't think that any of these people should be people that just walk up to the border, or people that definitely not people that cross illegally. I mean, they should be, we need to go back to restricting this to people who really are legitimate amnesty candidates, and very few of the ones that are coming in are that. They're all economic refugees looking for opportunity. And if we're going to bring people in, we should bring them in by legal immigration to the degree we need, with the skill sets we want them to have to fit into our economy. Being able to be fluent in English would be a nice thing, for instance. But anyhow, because we have plenty of people here that aren't already. So that, I mean, so I don't know. If we run short, we can always loosen things up a little bit. But I don't think we're running anywhere. We're overloaded right now by a long ways. So anyhow, that's kind of the way I see it. By the way, I'll be, of course, posting this on Rumble as well, like as I mentioned earlier, and of course the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. So until next time.